Hey everybody, it wouldn't be the day after Super Bowl if a bunch of ad people didn't get together to debate the merits or lack thereof of the ads that ran on the Super Bowl, because apparently there was a football game going on with the ad bowl that happened last night. So Kelly and I are here and we have lists, and our lists are our three favorites, our three least favorites, and a couple of overall observations. So Kelly, you ready to dive into this?
I've never been more ready.
It's actually contractual obligation for people who made a living in advertising to have strong opinions about this. And here we are.
It's kind of the one time of the year when people want to know what we think.
Exactly. Or at least where we think they want to know what we think. So, do you want to start with the good ones or the bad ones?
Let's start with the good ones. Start on a high
Let's
note.
start with the good news first. We'll go back and forth. We each
Sounds
have three.
good.
I'll start with my list. So, top of my list is the 2-minute Paramount Plus ad. I
Uh,
thought it was like in a celebrity fest, which the Super Bowl always is. It was celebs for a reason. They were connected to the product, which is this content. The performances were amazing. Drew Barrymore was hilarious.
he was
Patrick
great.
Stewart is awesome. The idea of throwing the child was like so bizarre, and I just loved it.
That was nicely done. Well produced, great stars. I'm going to circle back to that when I talk about observations of the night. But I will say a favorite moment from that ad was Patrick Stewart looking at the note on his wrist, and it just says "throw the child."
I
So
totally agree. I loved it. I thought it was just joyful and fun.
credit to the people who made that. On a maybe less humorous, but just as poignant, just as impactful side, I put Google Pixel right up there at the top of my list. A beautiful ad, a reminder that humor is not the only emotion that we can use to attract the attention of people, and something that was highly relevant to Google.
Google keeps doing this, and you would think that their formula would get tired, which is emotional product demonstration, and they just do it great. They always do it great.
They really do. It's memorable, and they did not get the memo about using a celebrity, and it worked fine.
Well, maybe they couldn't afford one. Next on my list, Dunkin' Donuts with Ben Affleck. There is something so appealing to me about self-aware celebrities. And the way Affleck did his Boston accent, the way Matt Damon showed up and said, sometimes it's hard to be your friend. It was just great. And again, it's connected to something inherent about this brand. Dunkin' Donuts is a Boston icon. So let's get the most Boston famous people we can get and put them in an ad and have them be aware of themselves. And I thought it was just awesome. I do have a comment about it though, which is like a little asterisk, and that is, I hate to say it, but Tom Brady is just not funny.
Well, Matt, second on my list is Dunkin' Donuts. And just like you, I thought it was really well used celebrities. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Tom Brady. They are connected to Boston and to New England, and so is Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, if you've ever been to Boston, Connecticut, anywhere up in New England. And if you haven't, you'll see this first time you go. There are more Dunkin' Donuts than gas stations up there. It's a beloved brand, and these guys are strongly connected with it. The humor really worked. Ben Affleck was hysterical, and Matt Damon's reactions to him just as hysterical. So very well played.
It's a good one. You're right. Boston is proud of Dunkin' Donuts. It's like it's their thing, or one of their
Yeah.
things, along with the Red Sox, probably. So third on my list, Christopher Walken for BMW. Each of these things is based in something true. The best ones are based in something that's true of the talent and the product at the same time, like the connection to Boston with Dunkin' Donuts and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. The connection to the product in the BMW ad was a little less. There's only one, there's only one BMW, just like there's only one Christopher Walken. Okay. But the fact that there's a truth here that is everybody has their own bad impression of Christopher Walken, and to be able to enjoy those impressions with Christopher Walken for a minute was hilarious. I just thought it was so funny. I only have
Um,
one comment on that one too, which is that they cut to Usher at the end, and Walken says, "Hey, don't you have somewhere to be?" And Usher says, "Yes, I do," and then dances out of the restaurant. Why the hell they didn't have Usher do a bad Christopher Walken is beyond me, because it would have been hilarious.
that would have been funny. That would have been a nice close. I loved Christopher Walken. He's such a likable guy anyway, and him being willing to poke a little fun at himself was awesome.
Yep.
Will I remember, whether or not it does a good job for Audi? I don't know.
It
Oh,
was BMW.
I know.
It might have done an equally good job for BMW or Audi.
That's the point. That's the point.
Yeah,
Not a strong connection to the brand, but the
agreed.
Usher thing felt like just an add-on at the end, unnecessary and particularly strange since it's not the only ad of the night that Usher appeared in.
Where else was he?
He was in the ad for he it was about losing your memory, and I am doing exactly that right now with Jennifer Aniston and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Right, right. Uber Eats.
Uber Eats. Thank you. Yes, he was at the very end of Uber Eats,
Oh, okay.
sort of forgetting that he had just done the
Oh,
halftime.
that's right. Yeah, he forgot. He like, someday I'd love to do a Super Bowl halftime. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which all right, I've got to now that I've had a memory moment talking about an ad about having memory moments, I'll give a brief nod to Uber Eats. But it was not my third on the best ads of the night list. In fact, my third was very controversial. It is very controversial, and that's why it's on the list. Because I think sometimes we've forgotten that the way that you create an ad for the Super Bowl is not the way you create an ad for any other day of the year. You want to get attention. You want to stop people in their tracks. They're busy. They're eating guacamole. They are not paying attention to you. They're getting up to go to the bathroom. You got to stop them for just a moment, and you're stopping 100 million people for just a moment.
Yep.
You need some controversy. You need something that grips you. And I believe the ad He Gets Us, which was an
Wow.
ad for Jesus, like who I didn't even know had
Jesus
an
gets an
agency.
ad, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be fun because that's on my other list.
Oh man, I can't wait. It is still trending on Twitter,
Yep.
sometimes known as X. It's being critiqued by both people who are progressive and people who are conservative. Conservative because they feel like it's too progressive, and progressive because they're concerned about the funding by people behind Hobby Lobby, et cetera, and whether or not it's an authentic expression. It certainly has gotten a lot of talk, but it was a beautifully done ad and a really interesting and very, very clear idea. So I
Yeah.
credit it for that.
Yeah, that was the washing of the feet ad, right? It was
Yes.
produced in a really interesting way. They shot it in a really interesting way. It looked good, almost like a Renaissance painting almost or something. Okay, cool. Well, we will have more conversation about that one. So we've got three good ones for each of us. Let's go down to the bottom of the list. And you start on this one. What's your worst of the worst?
The worst of the worst ad. Worst of the worst is tough, but I'm going to give it to someone that and maybe it's a bit of a surprise. I just hated the Clydesdale ad for Budweiser.
Really?
I hated it with every ounce of my soul.
Why?
And I'm a guy who has applauded some of their efforts in the past. Good old warm-hearted Budweiser Clydesdales. But it felt like they phoned it in, like they were trying to manipulate our feelings, trying to paper over some of the controversy they've had in the past year, and given us not only a bunch of Clydesdales, but a dog who at the end licks the face of the horse. So cute.
Oh my God. Cute
And
animals
it's
kissing.
nostalgia because they're going back in time to use the old wagons to deliver that all-important beer, which is the first thing I always think of when I worry about people who may be stranded in a snowstorm or a blizzard.
Mhm.
I I just think it was
Oh my God, where will they get their beer?
yeah.
Hmm.
You can only go back to the well so many times, and at least if you're going to go back and you're going to use the Clydesdales, find something interesting to do with them. I just thought, no, you missed.
Yep. I agree with all those points. I don't think it made my bottom three, but I'm with you on that one. Like when they've done that in the past, they've been able to do it in a way that made you forgive them for going back to the Clydesdale well because the stories they told were so engaging. I didn't feel it last night either. Here's mine. What the hell was that fever dream from Pfizer with the talking portraits of of Einstein and Newton and with the Queen soundtrack, and this was like a fun romp through the history of science. Like, and then the end with the cancer, like what is this? Right? It was like it was really badly produced. Had an idea that felt schizophrenic, and then like I don't know. I wasn't digging it.
For a drug company, it did seem like a drug-induced moment in time.
Like they're high on their own supply. But like fun with drug research is just not, and then ending with some kind of cancer thing. Like I thought it was a bad idea, badly done.
Yeah, I especially thought it was a strange fit for the concept. And remember, we're here. The reason that people talk to ad people about these ads is because we understand what they are intended to do. And what they're intended to do is create an interesting and inventive concept that will disrupt people out of their stupor of Bud Light and guacamole to take notice of something that they'll remember the next day. And here's the thing, they had an interesting point to make, a point that science matters.
Mm-hmm.
And that without science, we wouldn't be enjoying some of the benefits of modern medicine that Pfizer is involved with, including curing certain kinds of cancer.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it was the least scientific presentation of that concept that you could imagine.
Yeah, the Queen song got my attention. And then I
Yeah,
watched like it was so I like the lips moving on the port. It was just badly done. It was badly produced. And I just I don't know. I hated it.
yeah, because we all, when we start to think about modern science, think about Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a natural fit. Um,
Okay, enough beating up on Pfizer. What about you?
well, I think my next one would be State Farm.
Really?
It,
The Arnold Schwarzenegger State Farm agent ad.
it was one of those ads that is using comedic characters with a comedic message to be funny. And so the first rule of an ad like that is it has to be funny. Uh, technically not a humor ad if it's not funny. I didn't think it was funny. I also thought it was a little weird to mock somebody for the way they speak in today's world. We're trying to avoid such things and for State Farm to lean into it, even if it's somebody who's poking fun at themselves. There is a leaning on older guys that just didn't feel like it fit a spot that was trying to be more relevant. It was either a little bit of a miss because the actors that they chose were so off from the target market, or it was a little bit of a miss because they were actually making fun of old people. I couldn't quite figure it out, but from my perspective, it missed in 3 or 4 different ways.
Right, it's a pretty thin concept. Although the idea of leaning into State Farm having agents that you like and that supposedly are there to help you is an interesting idea because it goes to a thing that, you know, that we in the insurance business for decades when we worked with Geico used to beat them up over. So the strategy of saying, let's run a Super Bowl ad that focuses on the State Farm agent and creates this agent State Farm kind of character is not a bad idea for State Farm to do. I think it leans into something that some of their big competitors can't beat them on. So here's my next one, Robert F. Kennedy. So the Robert F. Kennedy ad that was basically his face slapped onto a JFK ad from the 60s or from 1960, from the 60 election. Egregious, just awful. And if there was ever a more blatant admission that this guy has nothing to offer other than his Uncle Jack's last name, this was a conceptual admission of that, and it was terrible. And come to find out, immediately after that ad ran, the Kennedy family spoke up and said, this is disgusting. I can't believe you're doing this. You know, Maria Shriver, I guess, posted that our grandmother would be horrified by your stance against vaccines. And I can't believe you brought the family name into something like this. And he had to apologize to them. I mean, it was awful.
I share that ad as my third on the list because
Oh.
it was, in this one, we're in full agreement. And apparently so is Robert Kennedy because he apologized for it. And if before the morning even comes, you're apologizing for the ad that you just dropped $7 million to play the night before, you know that you have screwed up. Like
Yeah.
even the person who did it apologized for how bad it was, and it was bad. It was bad in every way it could be bad. It was bad because it was an inappropriate reference to a legacy that has nothing to do with him.
Right.
It was bad because it was weird as all hell, just a
Mhm.
strange, bizarre ad that didn't seem to relate to anything. But most of all, it was bad because this candidate needs more than anything else, if he is to be a candidate, to be taken seriously and to express to the American people some reason why, even one reason why we
Yeah,
should care about this candidate.
that's
And
right.
to spend $7 million and not do that is a crime. There was no reason for us to vote or even think about Robert Kennedy except so.
Exactly. It made me think, if you're going to spend $7 million to do this, you must have nothing else to say other than, hey, my name's Kennedy too. And if
Yeah,
that's the best you got, save your 7 million bucks.
yeah, absolutely. It
Yeah.
was it was a huge disappointment.
Okay, so we doubled up on that one. So now it's your turn.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, beyond that, there were so many. It was so hard. First of all, most of the ads were bad. I'm just going to say it. It was not a strong night for the Super Bowl. There were so
So
many
you sound
ads.
like those cranky ad people every time they come out after the Super Bowl. I didn't like any of
I know. But it just, I hold the Super Bowl in very high regard as a place where the real talent of the best people in our industry can go on display, and a lot of them just missed. But because I have to pick another one that is bad, I'm just going to say Starry because I don't know what the heck was going on with that ad. It's not going to make me want to drink whatever they're selling.
Yeah, I had same thing. I kind of went, what? So the third one on my list, and we should talk about this, is the Jesus Gets Us ad.
Yes, let's
And
do it.
and the reason I put it on there is actually a follow on from the reason you put it on your good list, which is I thought it was beautifully done, and the message of it is lovely. Like the washing of the feet, and like it's lovely, and it's a nice reminder, religion aside, of what Jesus stood for and why that's important in our world. But there's something that triggers in the back of my head when I see advertising like that I know is not intended to sell me a product. It's like it lives outside the unspoken agreement between a consumer and an advertiser, which is there's an unspoken agreement that we know that this ad is supposed to try to sell me something. I'm okay with that, right? When something like this comes on, I say, all right, you're not trying to sell me anything. What's the point? What's behind this? And it makes me say, the message is fine. Who's the messenger and what's the point? And when you get behind it and you realize that it's funded by by the guy who founded, the billionaire who founded and runs Hobby Lobby and has told all kinds of healthcare from his employees, and has a pretty thinly veiled, if veiled at all, motivation of trying to proselytize and bring people over to his really conservative evangelical interpretation of religion, I felt like I was being deceived. I felt like Hansel and Gretel, who walked up to the witch's house and the witch said, "Come in and have some pie." Like I was being baited and switched. And
Yeah,
I
I
hated it.
think I can see that. And I've heard that opinion a lot about and similar ads that they've run in the past, including in past Super Bowls. I'm not sure what to think about that because the ad itself is so inherently accurate to the more progressive view of Christ as a figure who cared about poor people and cared about everyone and didn't really go around hating. It appears to be telling a story about Christ that is inconsistent with the story that those who are hateful and wishing to trap immigrants at the border with razor wire in the middle of a river,
Yeah.
like you would trap a beaver that was chewing down your trees. I mean, it's a different perspective. So I'm going to still give it credit for breaking through with an interesting perspective. But I do think your point that we look at ads, especially ads that are theoretically trying to say something that isn't commercial in
Yeah.
nature, we look at them with great cynicism. And this morning, certainly, that ad has been looked at with great cynicism from people on all sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah, I think that's what sums it up for me, is that I was cynical about it, and I looked into it and I went, I had a reason to be cynical about it. I don't trust this. There's a motivation behind this that's somehow not in keeping with the message that I thought was so good. So, okay, good. Well, that's interesting. I think we agree, but ended up weighting different parts of the equation differently.
Yes, that's right.
Interesting.
That's right.
Very interesting. All right. So let's do the third part. Comments and overall takeaways. You go first.
Well, I think the big story of this Super Bowl is that there has never been a Super Bowl that's used more celebrities in more advertising. There was almost no ads that didn't have celebrities. We had, just to rattle off a few, Beyonce, Ice Spice, Peyton Manning, Post Malone, Lil Wayne, Jennifer Hudson, Common, Cardi B, Sir Anthony Hopkins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, Usher, Christopher Walken, David Beckham, Jennifer Aniston, David Schwimmer, Jason Momoa, Jenna Ortega, Jason Sudeikis, Dan Levy, Lionel Messi, Scarlett Johansson, Kris Jenner, Tina Fey, Kate McKinnon, Chris Pratt, Aubrey Plaza, Patrick Stewart, Drew Barrymore, Jeff Goldblum, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, Jennifer Lopez, and who knows who else. I'm sure I missed.
That's an incomplete list. Yeah, like if you were on the A, B, or C list and you weren't in a Super Bowl ad, you need to call your agent.
Yeah, really. Really,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was ridiculous. It was so dense with stars that some of the ads had like star after star after star after star, all in the same ad. It's very hard to remember a brand that is overshadowed by a star. It's
Yeah, and there
very
were
hard for.
some of those too that were like, these people paid an ungodly amount of money for this talent. And this ad was completely forgettable. The Michelob Ultra ad that has Mesty and Jason Sudeikis and you couldn't make that better? Like Dan Marino, which is weird, but like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
boring.
That I thought, okay, those guys, that's going to be an interesting
This will be
ad.
fun.
Both
Jason Sudeikis is
associated with
amazing.
soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Man. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was the thing. Now, that said, there is a right way to use celebrities in an ad, which is to connect it to the concept of the ad or to the brand itself. And
Yeah.
we've talked about how well Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, and Jennifer Lopez did for Dunkin. We talked about how Patrick Stewart, and Drew Barrymore, and Creed did for Paramount and others. Jeff Goldblum, always appropriate for apartments.com. And if you got the chance to see the Sir Anthony Hopkins for Stokes Cold Brew, it was right on. It was right on message, really right on concept. So it can be done, but the vast majority just missed the mark.
Yeah. I agree. I think you can't have a commentary about last night's ads without talking about the celebrity overload. I mean, it was insane, amazing, right? I'm always amazed when brands spend the amount of money they have to spend to buy the time for the Super Bowl and they run an ad that looks like it should have run on like a local feed at late night, right? Like Bass Pro Shops did.
Oh, I had the
Bass
exact
Pro
same
Shops
thing.
boat ad was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, do you think this is just a normal media buy? What are you doing? Like, you have to earn your way onto the Super Bowl with something better than that. Come on.
No question, no question. There's always one. Bass Pro was the one last night,
Yeah,
just
that's
was
true.
kind of a normal ad. And it's just not going to win out on a night when
No, it
consumer
doesn't work.
expectation is they will be entertained, not just by the game, but by the ads.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'm begging T-Mobile to please retire the Scrubs guys. Just please do. That's a great show, and those guys are great, but please spare us. No
It's
more.
time. Sorry,
No
guys, go do
more.
something else.
Yeah, the time's up. It's over. I guess there's another Super Bowl in the books, and it was a hell of a game too.
It was an amazing game. You know, there aren't that many nights when the game is better than the ads, but it certainly was this time. Great
Yep.
game. We forecast that it was going to be lots of celebrities and other things, and we forecast a win for Kansas City. So I just want to say to our very, very small audience out there, if you want to ask our opinion on betting next year, just let us know.
Yeah, send those to Kelly. Don't send those to me. I don't want the responsibility. All right, well, let's wrap up another Super Bowl. Always fun to talk about it. two old ad guys getting together and being cranky. Super fun. Good way to spend a Monday morning.
Great way to spend a Monday morning. Enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thanks, Kelly, and thanks to everybody for listening in and participating in our post Super Bowl rant here. So if you have thoughts or comments that you want to expand on, please leave them below the video. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon.